Hi, this is Bastiaan, and today we're going to take a look at the concept of zugzwang. So zugzwang is when we create a position where the opponent has no good moves left and is forced to make a move that's losing, either in position or losing material, or worst of all, resulting in checkmate. So how do you use zugzwang in real life games? So I'll illustrate with an example. So I'm playing black here, and white opens c4, and I play c5, the Sicilian, which I rarely play. Knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, and knight to f6. So we're seeing standard Sicilian development. Bishop to c4, and knight takes pawn. So it looks like I'm sacrificing a knight here for a pawn, but if white retakes, and he did, I can play d5, forking the two minor pieces, and take one minor piece back, probably at the cost of one of my own pawns. And white chooses to play d3, which is probably inaccurate, for after pawn takes bishop, pawn takes pawn, and queen takes queen, knight takes queen, we can see that the material is equal, but white has lost the bishop pair, is left with double pawns on the c-file, and has lost castling privileges. So play continues with e5, bishop d2 in order to block attacks on the open d-file, f5 chasing away the knight, knight goes to g3, and bishop to d6, using my bishops to protect my pawn island, because both pawns are under attack by the knights. King c1, getting off of the open d-file, castle, knight to e2, and e4, forcing the knights either back or on the h4 or g5 square. So white develops to h4, and the knight is more or less trapped on h4 because it has no real way out. White continues with bishop to e6, attacking the c4 pawn, b3, so we're cracking up white's defense, f4, so we're continuing the pawn storm, knight to c3, and bishop to e5, and the bishop on e5 pins the rook, and the bishop as well, because the knight can't move, and the bishop can't move because it's needed to protect the knight, so it can only move on the e1 d2 diagonal. And white tries to advance with g3, attacking my pawn. I advance as well, returning the favor. F takes and f takes. So now I'm attacking the bishop, but it's still needed to guard the knight on c3. So the bishop needs to retreat to e1 in order to protect the knight on c3. g5, attacking the knight. Knight retreats, attacking my pawn on e3. So I advance to e2. And here I'm creating the possibility for rook f1, attacking white's rook on h1. And if white does nothing, I get a free rook, and if white takes my rook, I can take his rook and promote to a queen. So white needs to defend against that and plays king to b2, freeing up the a1 rook. So my rook goes to f1, and white plays bishop to d2 in order to still protect his knight on c3 and get 2 pieces on the defense on the first rank. So now if rook takes, then rook takes back. So I play rook to d8, attacking the bishop on d2, which is now unprotected. Rook takes. I recapture, promoting to a rook, which doesn't matter because white will recapture immediately. And rook takes rook. And I get a free bishop for a pawn. Now white plays knight to e1. And I'm being given an attack on the h2 pawn. But instead I'm looking for an attack. So I'm developing my knight to d4. Still threatening h2, but also threatening c2 with a check. So this forces the knight on e1 into the defensive, but white plays knight to f3 anyways, forking my 2 pieces, my knight and my rook, and also guarding his h2 pawn. So white realizes he's going to lose a pawn and chooses to lose the c2 pawn. So rook takes, check, and king goes to b1, and the h2 pawn is currently protected by the knight. Rook takes c3, attacking white's knight, and white recaptures the knight, so the lost knight with knight takes bishop. So it looks like this is equal because we both lost a minor piece. However, after rook to e3, it turns out that the white knight is being trapped because it has no possible escapes anymore, because every square is covered once or twice, and white has lost the knight. So white abandons the knight and plays king to b2. So I'm taking the knight, rook to f2, a5, king c3, a4. So it looks like I'm sacking a pawn, but if white takes, and he did, so pawn takes pawn, we get rook e3 check, king is forced to b2, and bishop takes. So now I've recaptured the pawn because there wasn't any defense anymore. So you brought down a pawn, but I'm leaving white with doubled pawns, which favors black. Rook to g2, bishop e2 to block the white rook. So rook to g1, and then bishop to f3 once again to lock out white's rook. Rook c5, hoping for some counterplay on the c file, and then rook e2 check, king b1, a lot of checks, bishop e4 check, king a1, then knight c2 check, king b2, knight b4 check, king a3, rook takes a2 check, king b3, bishop d5 check, and king c3. And right now we have forced white in a zugzwang position because white doesn't have any good moves left. Right now the king is safe on c3, but all other squares are being covered, and we're looking at rook c2 mate. So it's just a matter of time until white runs out of moves and I can play rook to c2 mate. So I just have to waste moves, so rook goes to f2, white plays h3, rook e2, h4, f2, takes, e2, g6, and I advance, so I can recapture as well. g7, wasting another move, f2, g4, e2, g5, h5, and g6. So white has run out of moves with his pawns on the g file. f2, a5, e2, a6, and I recapture because I can't allow promotion. And finally, white has to make the losing move. Rook to c2, rook to any other place loses as well, and I get to play rook c2 checkmate. So I hope this situation explains zugzwang a little bit. I hope you enjoyed the game. Thanks for watching and have a great evening.